Well, he could be sick, freeze up, faint, anything.
That's something I'd like to see, a big, strong man, a dead faint.
Yeah, well, I won't be there to catch
Shut
him.
up a sec. You don't reckon he could get violent?
I don't know. Depends if he can control it, I guess.
Yeah. We better play it safe. Got to find something that looks innocent. We don't want him to know we know. Not until we find out how he reacts, anyway.
Oh, it's only Ed. Hey, Ed, come here and we'll tell you what we're planning to do to Mr. Fletcher.
Shut up, Lizzie.
What are you going to do?
Oh, nothing, Eddie. Just play a joke on him, that's all.
I'm sure the poor boy doesn't mean any harm.
Yeah, well, it's time the poor boy learned his lesson, that's all.
Where are you going?
God, you scared the living daylights out of me.
I don't want you leaving this flat.
And I didn't think you cared anymore.
Carol hasn't come back home.
How sad for you.
Listen, you little fool. That means she's out there somewhere in God knows what state of mind. If she finds out who you are, she's just as likely to become violent. Can't you understand a simple fact like that?
You do care what happens to me, don't you? Don't you, Tom?
I don't want Carol being locked up for something you brought on yourself.
You're only worried about your precious wife.
I told you how I feel, Melinda.
Get out.
I'll let you know when I...
Get out!
Where are they?
Have you got the money?
You're under arrest for blackmail.
What happened? What have you done?
Nothing, darling. I just wanted you to come and pick me up, that's all.
Why all the mystery on the phone? I thought you'd been arrested or something.
Well, actually, I wanted to surprise you. I've solved that little problem for you. Your little tart's been arrested for blackmail. Well, I phoned the police this afternoon and they told me to go through with paying her off. She was caught red-handed. I'm afraid the negatives will have to be kept as evidence. Such a pity to bring this all out into the open, isn't it, darling? I mean, the newspapers will have a field day. Senior lecturer at university playing around with one of his students.
I'll be ruined.
I'm sure we'll ride out the scandal together. But it's probably best that you do resign.
Take her through, Sergeant, will you?
You bastard! You set me up!
That's enough of that. We don't want any more charges against you.
You'll get what's coming!
Mr. Burton, isn't it? Your wife did the right thing in coming to us. It's the only way to stop a blackmailer.
What'll happen to her?
Or we'll hold her overnight. She'll be up before the magistrates in the morning. With that letter she sent your wife and being caught in the act, we'll have no trouble in sending her for trial.
Poor darling's been under such a strain. Come along, darling. We've got such a lot to talk about. Your new job. Something that'll keep you out of temptation,
In Melbourne town there was a jockey. Jimmy Fletcher was his name. He rode a horse called Silver Bridle.
You'll have to get the doc to agree.
They are hard
He'll
sold,
never ride
Birdsworth, if you can't
again.
keep it down to a whisper, just shut your mouth altogether.
Oh, Miss Bennett, I was only trying to be cheerful. Poor Jimmy.
Then we'll have to get someone to keep the doc occupied. Give us time alone with Fletch. That's enough, Birdsworth. I won't speak to you again.
Oh, some people don't know a good tune when they hear one.
We'll give it a go.
Why not?
Could you two hurry up in there? You've been in there long enough. Hey, Vera, how are you and Fletch getting on these days? That's none of your business, Smith.
I don't know how you put up with him. If it was up to me, I'd take him down a peg or two.
Well, it isn't up to you, is it?
No, but if you ever need a hand, maybe we can help you. Well, maybe you could help us.
What are you talking about?
Nothing. Just thought you might be able to do us a favour.
I'm not about to take sides with you lot against a fellow officer. And don't you forget it.
Oh, don't worry, Vera. We won't forget it.
No, I'll be looking for a fully equipped surgery. It's a little bit out of my price bracket, I'm afraid. Do you have any other areas? Just a minute. Yes, I see. Okay, well, I'll keep checking with you. Thanks for your help. Come in. Well, must be important if the Women's Committee wants to see me.
Yeah, sure is, Doc. We've come up with what we think's a pretty good idea.
The answer's no.
But you haven't even heard it yet.
Anything connected with you three means trouble. The answer's no.
Oh, come on, Doc, you might even like it.
All right. Make it snappy, huh?
I've got a good mind not to tell you now.
Suit yourself.
But seeing as it's so important to the other women, I'll swallow my pride. Now, the other day when Lizzie had that heart attack, she nearly copped it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And why? Because none of us knew what to do. Everyone panicked. So I reckon it's about time we learnt some of the basics of first aid.
Yeah, and it'd come in handy for when we get out, too.
Yeah, and when you beat Fred up, you can patch him up afterwards.
Stay away from there, Lizzie.
I haven't even touched anything.
Anyway, so what do you say, Doc? You reckon you'd like to teach us a few things?
Yeah, like bandaging and all that sort of thing. I mean, a lot of people get hurt in here.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that's such a bad idea at all. I'll have to check with Mrs. Davidson first, of course.
Oh, good on you, Doc. You're a good sport.
Yeah.
Well, at least they'd be involved in something constructive. I'll go along with it.
What do you think, Meg?
Well, it would give them something to do after they go back to being housewives or whatever.
I can't see it doing any harm, Mrs. Davidson.
The thing that bothers me, it was B. Smith and her cohorts who suggested it.
I'll be there to keep an eye on them.
All right. When do you want to start?
Well, this morning, if possible. Well, they're still enthusiastic.
Couldn't you wait until they finish work?
It's not the whole prison. There's only 7 or so who are interested.
I don't think it'll matter just this once for the women to miss a morning's work, Mr. Fletcher.
There is routine, Mrs. Davidson.
Routine leads to boredom, and that's where most of the trouble starts. While you're here, Dr. Clements will not be with us for about a week. His replacement resigned rather suddenly, so he had to go back to the university.
Well, how much longer is he going to be with us?
Until he finishes his report on prisons. Which reminds me, your report on Karen Travers. Was it absolutely necessary for you to stop her from going to classes this afternoon?
Yes, it was, Mrs. Davidson. It was a matter of discipline. Just because she's a university student doesn't mean to say she stops being an inmate.
All right. Thank you. It's a wonder Miss Bennet and Mr. Fletcher don't get on a little better.
They do seem to think alike.
Horton? Miss Vernon would like to see you.
Thank you. Miss Bennet, I got a problem. I suppose I should speak to Mr. Fletcher himself, but I don't want him to be too hard on the women.
Well, you can tell me.
Oh, yes. I think the women are going to make it difficult for him.
In what way?
I don't know. That's the problem. But I thought perhaps you could warn him. Oh, don't say I told you, but ask him to be a little careful.
You don't have to worry about Mr. Fletcher. He can take care of himself.
The 2 most common ways of taking the pulse rate are the radial pulse and the carotid pulse. The normal average pulse rate is between 60 and 80 a minute, the average being 72. Count the number of beats in 30 seconds, multiply by 2, this will give you the average per minute. Now, I'll demonstrate on Lizzie, the rest of you take the person next to you. And the radial pulse is taken at the front of the wrist over the radial artery.
Ow!
Not so hard, you only need to press lightly.
Look, I hate to tell you this, Phil, but you ought to be 6 feet under.
It seems to be going all right. I'll check in again later.
Oh, come on, Doc. When are we going to get down to the real important stuff like cuts and bandaging and breaking up?
All right.
Terrific, Doc.
Well, at least it's close to the shops and transport, so that'll be a big help. And if you like, I'll drop you there tomorrow.
Edith? Whatever you say, dear.
I'm sorry I couldn't find you anything better. But it was a little difficult.
As a person who's slept under bridges, I'm sure I like it. I've made some nice friends here. And you don't expect to do that?
Well, there are other people in the boarding house who make friends with them, too.